Right, so recently we heard about a new iPad Air on the way that could be launching in just a few weeks, but clearly leakers have decided, hey, that makes too much sense, why don't we just come up with something random to confuse everyone? And so apparently there's now two new iPad Airs in the works, so let's try and make some sense out of this, I guess. Now, I would have dismissed this report if it came from some random sketchy source, but this actually comes from 9to5Mac, who have been very accurate in the past, which is why I'm even more confused. They're the ones suggesting this. So yes, according to their sources, Apple has been experimenting with two new iPad Air models codenamed J507, J508, J537, and J538. Now, before you ask, yes, I'm aware I just said 4 code names, and some might think that refers to 4 new iPads, but remember that each iPad comes in 2 SKUs, a Wi-Fi version and a 5G version, so there are still only 2 new iPads. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. Now this is where you would expect 9to5Mac to clarify and explain why there are 2 bloody iPad Airs now, but they say nothing. Apparently details are pretty vague, and to save themselves, they do make sure to mention that plans can change. That's literally what every leaker says at this point. However, they do ultimately theorize that either the new model is a larger size option or a more expensive model that has better specs. Now, I doubt it's gonna be the latter, because guess what, guys? A more expensive iPad Air with better specs already is a thing, and that's called the iPad Pro. They do, by the way, mention there are separate code names they've received from their source for the M3 iPad Pros, so this is not a new version of the 11-inch iPad Pro they're mistaking as an iPad Air. So that leaves us with the only possibility being a new size option. And annoyingly, I could see Tim do this. We've recently been seeing Apple introduce a larger size option to many of their mid-range products. Take for example the iPhone 14 and 15 Plus, and of course the 15-inch MacBook Air, so yes, a new 12.9-inch iPad Air would be the next step. Actually, I guess it won't be 12.9 inches because the iPad Air right now is 0.1 inch smaller than the 11-inch, and so I guess it's gonna be 12.8 inches? So yeah, there's that. Anyways, unlike the other larger mid-range products in Apple's range, I really don't want this to be a thing because the iPad range is a mess right now. There are frankly too many options that offer similar features, and introducing yet another iPad's not gonna fix this. You see, I was fine with a 15-inch MacBook Air and an iPhone 15 Plus because there's clear differences between the regular and Pro models, and the lineups are very easy to understand. With the iPad though, considering the software's so limited on the Pros anyways, I always found the iPad Air and Pro to be way too similar, and there's not enough differences between these machines for the price difference, and so adding a new size option that's even closer in price to the 11-inch iPad Pro is not the right move, guys. I do however think introducing a regular large-sized iPad is a brilliant idea because I'm sure there's older people with eyesight issues, or those who just want a bigger display but don't want to pay the cost for the Pros and don't need the fancy mini LED display. And so offering that for a cheaper price is a great idea, but it shouldn't be an iPad Air in my opinion. If anything, they should discontinue the Air, drop the price of the base 10.9-inch iPad to $349, and then for $150 more offer a 12.9-inch version, and for those who just want a bigger display, I feel like that would be more than fine for most consumers. If the non-Pro 12.9-inch iPad was based on the Air though, this could be $700 to $750, which is not very affordable, and at that price, you could just get a refurbished iPad Pro for less. But maybe that's Apple's plan because they want to upsell consumers to the iPad Pros, and so offering a 12.9-inch iPad Air that's only slightly cheaper could make the Pros seem like an even better deal. Tim often does big brain tactics like this. I did also see some theories from you guys on Twitter, follow me there at saranbyte, but basically someone said maybe the new size actually replaces the iPad mini. So from now on, the iPad Air comes in 2 sizes, which would be 8.3 inches and 10.9 inches, and this allows them to be updated at the same time. Now this could make sense, but considering we've also heard about the iPad mini 7 and separate code names for that product, I do have my doubts. Another person also said that because the M3 iPads are about to get insanely expensive because of OLEDs, there is going to be space for a larger iPad Air, which I guess could make sense. But either way, guys, if there's one thing Apple needs to remember, it's the fact the issue with the iPad is not the lack of iPad models. The hardware's fine as is. Just focus on simplifying the range and differentiate the iPad Pros by giving them more software features that actually take advantage of the power they have. Anyways, assuming we see at least one new iPad Air, when can we expect this to release? Well, 9to5Mac says coming months, and while recently Quote did tell us new iPads would not launch till early next year, but I'll be honest guys, I still think we're going to see new models this year because Apple's been consecutively releasing new iPads for the last 13 years, and yes, I know iPad sales have been recently declining, but I could totally see them giving us a simple spec update via a press release to boost sales. That's basically what they did last year with the M2 iPad Pros, and those launched around this time last year, so yes, I wouldn't be surprised if Apple does the same thing for the iPad Air 6. Now when I say this iPad Air is going to be a simple spec update, I really mean it guys, because all we've heard is that they're going to be chucking the M2 motherboards from the iPad Pro into the Air's chassis, and boom, you have your refresh. Especially considering we've heard a lot about Apple having a surplus of M2 chips. I'm sure they want to chuck this into every product and shift them ASAP, and so logistically speaking, I can see why Apple's releasing this. And so here's my advice guys, if you're considering this iPad, don't buy it. Yes, it's your money at the end of the day, you can buy it if you want. I'm just some random guy on YouTube, but I'll be honest, there really is nothing with iPadOS right now that's going to utilize the power of M2. Heck, it's not even fully utilizing M1 right now. And yes, I know someone in the comments is going to mention, what about support bro? M2's newer, so it's going to get longer support. You forgot to mention that. And yeah, that is a valid point, but let's be honest, M1's not losing support anytime soon. Apple's still supporting A10 iPads, so I suggest everyone, including you Jim at the back over there, to buy the M1 iPad Air for less. If you're a spec nerd though who wants to have a higher Geekbench score to flex on your friends, then sure, go ahead and buy the new iPad Air 6, but realistically M1's gonna be more than fine for iPadOS for the foreseeable future. And so literally the only good thing about this refresh is that it should bring down the price of the M1 Air, which is fantastic news for bargain hunters like myself, because we could soon see the iPad Air 5 drop to $400 or less, which is a pretty ridiculous deal guys. And if I'm being honest guys, the upgrades we would ideally want with the iPad Air already exist with the 11-inch iPad Pro, which brings me back to my earlier point that there's too much overlap with iPads, so they should ideally upgrade the Air and give it things like 120Hz, quad speakers, Face ID, etc., and drop the 11-inch Pro in the range, or kill the Air and keep the 11-inch Pro as is, with a lower price. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.